good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Life, Real Rides, presented by Hully Gully, the ultimate toy store in London, Ontario, Canada. We invite you to come and join us today for a topic on how to sell your motorcycle. Joining me once again is Paul Goldsmith from Hully Gully. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Derek. How are you?
I am great. Thanks for being here once again. Now, this is a question that comes up in the dealership quite often. People come in, they have a motorcycle, maybe they want to trade, maybe they just want to sell it privately. So if I want to sell my motorcycle privately or through a dealership, which option gives me the best value with the least risk?
Well, that's actually kind of like two questions in one. So really, less risk would be selling it directly to a dealership. Of course, that comes out of convenience, somewhat of what you would pay for. So for example, if you were to sell it privately, that would maybe give you, more money in the end, but it also does present more risk. So sometimes it can be argued that the better value is to sell it to a dealership, or at least sell it through a dealership and allow the dealership to handle the administration piece to avoid the risk.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else out there has tried to sell anything privately. It doesn't even have to be a motorcycle, but you put something up on Kijiji or Marketplace. Then, of course, you got the the people that want to try to scam you. They're asking for a quarter of what your item's worth, and then you've got the people that just don't really want the thing. They're just wasting your time. You've got the idiots that knock on your door and then they try to haggle you down. You want to sell your item for $100 and they say, "Oh, I'll give you 10." So there's definitely some value to going through a dealership because you don't have to put up with all that nonsense, right?
Right. I actually refer to it as the hassle, the cost, the hassle factor cost of selling it privately. So even when you trade in something, you want to factor in. I usually say about an extra 5 or 7% for the cost of the hassle factor that you will avoid. So that can make sense that way. So by selling it through the dealership, even through a consignment or a broker, then you're still able to maximize on the final price and just pay a fee to get that job done. So that's all right.
So when you go to sell your motorcycle, a lot of folks are very confused about the paperwork end of things. So what are the legal requirements, and what do we need to sell a motorcycle in the province of Ontario here anyway?
Well, you got to get your bike sold. First off, it needs to be free of any liens. So I'll get into that in a minute.
So it won't fall over?
Yeah, exactly. You want to make sure you're going around that corner. It's okay to have a lien, but no liens. And that's the case. You would go to Service Ontario. If you're selling it privately, you go to Service Ontario and you get the UVIP package, which is the Used Vehicle Information Package, which then shows that it's free of liens and that type of thing, which is handy to have. And also, it also then notes too the value of the bike, in terms of what you're going to be taxed on. So when you go to sell your bike privately to the buyer, you write them a receipt for the amount that you sold it for. And then when the buyer goes into Service Ontario for the transfer, then they would pay the HST on that value.
Okay. What about things like safety checks? If I have a motorcycle that I'm trying to sell privately, is it important to have it already safetied for sale?
It's important from a quick sale perspective, but caution with that because the safety does expire. So after that safety expires, now you have to go back and get a new safety if you didn't get any purchasers for your
and that time frame is about 36 days, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. So you do it now. You have 36 days to get a sale rush through, or you go do it again. So you could even go into your mechanic, bring it here, for example, and even just get it pre-safetied, just so you have an idea. Make sure there's no surprises, and then when it comes time to sell, then you can just come in, go back to the same person. They'll look at it again one more time and do the safety on it.
All right. So with that in mind, getting your bike ready for sale, I mean, obviously, as you just mentioned, a safety is definitely helpful to sell your motorcycle, because that way at least the buyer knows that someone has inspected that motorcycle. It should be safe. And again, where you get your safety done is also important. I know of some motorcycle owners, they want to sell their bike quickly. They're not really interested in putting a lot more money into their bike. And they might go to just a car mechanic somewhere who, unfortunately, legally can certify a motorcycle. But the bigger question is should they be, I suppose.
Yeah. And I think that's a little bit of a loaded comment, and I appreciate what you're saying, Derek, for sure. Though that being said, for any car mechanics that are listening, in all fairness, they're amazing at what they do.
Oh, absolutely.
And I it's just, but you're right. There are certain things that a motorcycle mechanic would look at a little closer, so you can feel more comfortable knowing that the steering head bearings were checked, that the axle bearings were checked, just different, like the trail, your swing arm bearings, things like that maybe get overlooked.
Okay. So what steps can I take to prepare my motorcycle so that it sells faster and hopefully get some more money out of it?
Well, like I said before, going in and getting that pre-safety check done is important. So then there's no surprises. Also, the buyers coming around can see that you've had it looked at, because you'll have a work order that shows that. Have your ownership ready to go. Have the UVIP, the package, used vehicle information package, already purchased. So you've gone to Service Ontario. You can show ownership. You can show the UVIP. You can show service records.
Yeah, service history important if you have that?
It is very important, especially if you're selling it privately. That's one thing to have for sure. When you purchase from a dealer, yes, it's nice to have service history, but if you don't, at least at least that dealership is going to have their own checks and balances for a benchmark.
Okay. Here's the big thing, and this is where we kind of have some interesting conversations with our clients that I know that come into our dealership. And how should they price their motorcycle, or how should I, if I was selling one, how would I price my motorcycle to attract buyers without leaving any money on the table?
I know from sales practice that there is a large advantage to just price the way you want it priced and let people buy it, as opposed to the back and forth. So you can feel confident in what you ask. And when you do feel confident in what you ask, usually it is at or below market price already. So you've made it attractive enough for the buyer.
I was going to say, people that come into the dealership, they want to trade with us, and or maybe they just have a motorcycle that they'd like to sell. What kind of research should I do as the seller to kind of, gauge where I should be in an asking price? Is there a process that we can do?
Yes, you can just really Google up or put into AI, say, what is the current market value of my, 2023 Honda, CB 650 or something like that. And it will come up and it'll give you values. You can ask for wholesale values, retail values. That's just a good starting point. It's only a guide. From there, then you can look at the market, look at, say, Marketplace, Trader, Kijiji, see what they're going for. Now, careful, I said going for. We never know what things go for, because we never know when they're sold what somebody paid.
Yeah, that's one of the points I'm going to make, because you do go online and you might see, as your example, a CB650, a Honda CB650, and somebody online is asking some crazy dollars for the bike. Maybe it's 3 or 4 years old. It's got reasonable mileage, but they're asking close to new retail. The reality is they're probably not getting that.
Right. So, and that unfortunately skews the perception of the value of the bike. So just knowing when you're doing your research, you'll see all the asking prices. Those are only asks. When you see the ones that are maybe they're around $5,000 or $1,000 less than the normal ask, then usually that's probably more of what's actually going to go for.
All right. And then I think another telltale sign, when you see these prices and you think, boy, that's a bit steep, look at the ad. How long has the ad been posted?
Yes, look how long the ad's been posted. And also, if it is currently February and the picture is taken at a beach, then we probably know that it's, posted some time ago. Yeah. So just those types of things. If it's been there like that long, then it's, obviously it's priced.
All right. You're listening to Real Life, Real Rides. It's a presentation of Holly Gully. And today we're talking with Paul Goldsmith about, selling your motorcycle and some of the things that you need to do to get it ready, some of the legal requirements and things like that. Last question, Paul, here, and we'll wrap things up. What is the safest way to handle payments and test rides and communicating with your buyers?
All right. So really, if you're selling it privately, just really beware, not to be deterrent. Though I would recommend no test drives because anything can happen. Handling payments would be, you're going to get a bona fide checked out bank draft that you go right to the bank and check it out with the customer. Make sure everything is clear. Now the safest way, and say privately is great. I think again in terms of convenience and value, you sell through a dealership. And all those worries are gone. The dealership will handle all that administration, including taking the payment and being responsible for that.
Awesome. So thank you so much for your time here again, Paul. You've been listening to Real Life, Real Rides, a presentation of Holly Gully, the ultimate toy store here in London. We invite you to tune in again with more great topics and hopefully some valuable information for our listeners. Again, Real Life, Real Rides. Thanks for listening.